Welcome back to NeoForge modding tutorials. I want to make a quick video to talk about how we can improve the bluestone block that we created. If you actually place it in the world in survival, you'll notice that it doesn't drop anything, so it doesn't drop itself when you break it, and also that it's broken instantly. I'm going to teach you how to generate loot tables and add your block to the mineable with pickaxe block tag so that it knows the pickaxe is the correct tool to use to mine it. We're going to start off in our blocks class, and we're going to change our properties to copy the properties from stone. This will take the hardness, which indicates how long it takes to break and also how resistant it is to explosions. Instead of creating a blank block properties, we're going to do of full copy, and we're going to specify the block that we want to copy. So we're going to reference Minecraft's stone block. The other thing we're going to add here is requires correct tools for drops. Now this makes it so the loot table won't be rolled to drop the object unless you use a pickaxe to break it, because when we break stone by hand, we don't expect it to drop anything. Same thing with our bluestone. Next, we're going to create data generation classes for our loot tables and block tags. I'll explain what block tags are after we tackle the loot tables. Loot tables in Minecraft represent the set of possible items that can be dropped from breaking a block or killing a mob or fishing. There are a number of events in the game that pull from loot tables. In our case, we're going to make a block drop loot table. So we're going to start by making a class called Learning the Ropes Block Loot Table Sub Provider. This should extend the block loot sub provider, and we'll go ahead and implement the generate method. And we'll also create a constructor matching the super. Now we can remove these first two parameters because we're going to make them constant. If you want to learn more about what these do, feel free to check out the NeoForge wiki. But for now, we'll leave them as default. Now inside of the generate method, we can call this .dropSelf, and that will make a really simple loot table that just drops the block itself. Now we need to override one more method or we're going to get an error when trying to run our client data. That method is getKnownBlocks. This is essentially a validation method that checks to see if everything is right. In our case, we only want to make sure that the bluestone has a loot table. So we'll return a list containing just bluestone. Now we need to make a class that handles all of the loot table generation for our mod, rather than just this specific sub-provider. We'll create a new class inside of our DataGen package, and this one will be called Loot Table Provider. In here, we're going to subscribe to an event. We add our mod ID, and select the mod bus. We'll add a subscribe event annotation on a public static void method called onGatherDataEvent. And the parameter is going to be GatherDataEventClient. Now here's where we're going to create our new subprovider and register it. We'll call event.createProvider and set up two parameters, the pack output and the lookup provider. And we'll feed these into the creation of a new loot table provider. This will take a number of arguments. The first one is the pack output. The next one is the required tables. Mods typically don't have to put anything here, so we'll send an empty set. If you want to learn more, check out the documentation. The next up is a list of the sub-providers we're interested in. We will create a new list of sub-provider entry. And here we're going to pass in the constructor for our block loot table sub-provider. And then we're going to give it a loot context param sets. We talked about there being different types of loot tables, such as when you kill an entity, it drops something. When you fish something, you get a certain object. When you break a block. And these require different context. They need to have different information to determine what should be dropped. For example, when you mine a block, you need to know what item the player is holding. When you kill an entity, you need to know what that entity is, what's happening to that entity, and what item it was killed using. In our case, we're going to use the block loot context param sets. And lastly, we provide the lookup provider. We need one more class to make everything work properly, and that is the block tags provider. Tags in the game are essentially a collection of objects that have some category. So for example, mineable with pickaxe is a tag. It's a list of blocks that are mineable with a pickaxe. It's as simple as that. This can apply to entities, items, blocks, pretty much any registry object you want. We'll create a new class inside of our DataGen package called Learning the Ropes Block Tags Provider. Again, we'll register it as an event bus subscriber for our mod, and the bus will be the mod bus. We'll add a new method subscribing to the event on gather data. Now we won't fill this out just yet. We need to actually make our class extend the block tags provider class, which sets up most of the logic for us. You'll see we can implement a method called add tags. And all we need to do here is call this.tag. And inside of this parameter, we'll pick the tag we want to target. In this case, we're going to use Minecraft's mineable with pickaxe block tag. And then we'll call .add and specify the blocks we want to add to this tag. In our case, it's bluestone. We need to create a constructor matching the super. Once again, we don't need our mod ID to be passed in as a parameter because we always know what it will be. Inside of our onGatherData event method, we can then register this provider. Now, everything should be in place. We can go ahead and run the client data generation and also run the game. Our data generation has succeeded, and you can see on the left-hand side that we now have a loot table for our bluestone. And we also have a tag addition to the pickaxe tag. Back in our test world in survival mode, we can now place down our bluestone and see that it has a timed break animation, and that is faster if we use a pickaxe. When we use a pickaxe, it drops itself, and if we were to break this by hand, it will drop nothing. And if you're interested in making your block drop different kinds of items, you can always have a look at the block loot subprovider class that we extended. If we open this up, we can see there are tons of different methods made available for generating the vanilla Minecraft loot tables. If we scroll through it, we find some interesting things. We have the lapis ore drops, we have redstone ore drops, you have shulker box drops. For example, if we want our bluestone to drop the same thing as redstone ore does, we can use the create redstone ore drops method. Once we regenerate our data and launch the game, our block will now have different drops. In general, I highly recommend taking a look at the classes available to you from vanilla Minecraft if you want to learn how something is done. It's a really important skill to have when working on mods, is to be able to parse the source code and extend off of their own logic and look at how they do it. You might find some really interesting things along the way. That's it for this video. I just wanted to provide some information that I may have left out of our original blocks and items video. Thanks for watching, and hope you have a great day.